Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. Monthly Report. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine.
We want to welcome everyone to the National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana Monthly Report. Once again, we want to thank you for tuning in and educating yourselves and learning more about a service that is so valuable to blind and print challenged individuals throughout the state of Indiana and around our country. Hey, Florence, how are you doing today?
I am well, thank you. And how are you today, Lee?
Well, I guess I'm warming up a little bit and getting ready for springtime.
Oh, I'm ready. Everybody's ready for spring.
Whenever it gets here. Mm-hmm. But, we have a great service here through the National Federation of the Blind. The service is provided free to subscribers of the National Federation of the Blind Newsline. This is a service that is sponsored through our state Talking Book and Braille Library here in Indiana. And we want to thank them for, the work that they do with the service as well, and all the other entities that are in our community throughout the state of Indiana that help support this particular program and get it into the hands of our citizens that qualify for the service. It's not just a service for the blind, but it's also a service for those individuals that are print challenged, those that are coping with dyslexia, and those that are with the shaky hand syndrome. It's great for students, it's great for adults, it's great for seniors, and I tell you, the youth find it a great tool in their studies for current events. I really like the search feature that we have. You can put in a search phrase, and it can go back into the history, into the archives of newspapers and magazines to find out different articles. Some of the usage of the service we'll talk about as we progress through our next segment. But today we have a guest, and our guest today is Florence.
Yes, we have with us today Mr. Anthony T.J. Wilson Jr. And welcome to the show, T.J.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll talk more with T.J. Once we get back from the commercial break, and you'll just learn more about him as we progress through our program today. So stay tuned, learn more about this interesting gentleman, and we'll be right back here on WHMB 40.
Thousands of Indiana residents feel isolated from the world due to vision problems. Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm blind. I read Stars and Stripes on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I use NFB Newsline when reading Hammond Northwest Times.
Using NFB Newsline, I read the Christian Science magazine.
Dad, you read Jerusalem Post, too.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Live the life you want. Read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
Well, welcome back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana Monthly Report with our host, Lee Martin, and our special guest today, Mr. Anthony T.J. Wilson, Jr. And what I like to do is to tell you about some of the devices that we use to access this free service. One of the most popular things we use is a landline phone. We also use mobile line, iPhone, a Victor reader, as well as a digital audio player from the Talking Book and Braille Library. So those are some of the ways that we access the free audio service. So what do you think about that, Mr. Martin?
Well, I tell you, there's a myriad of ways for all individuals and all different capabilities. I mentioned last week about seniors like to use the landline phone, and found out that there's a lot of other individuals that aren't seniors that love still using a landline phone. It's a very dependable tool still. So we try to make it accessible to almost everyone. Our national office located in Baltimore, Maryland, where we have our sponsor there that does a lot of the creation and a lot of work there for the National Federation of the Blind Newsline. Our director, Mr. Scott White, he does a great job there maintaining the service. We very rarely have interruptions to the services. We have over 400 newspapers throughout the country. We also have 15 or so newspapers, international newspapers that, you can read newspapers from China, Jerusalem, Germany, just all over the world. Your individual can pick up and independently using these devices to read and stay attuned to what's going on in the world. And Florence, talk a little bit about the magazines that we have.
I'd love to do that. Now, I like the newspaper aspect of Newsline, but I love the magazines. And my being a senior, I love reading AARP magazine. There's magazines for people of different lifestyles. For instance, there's people who are into health and fitness, tend to like magazines like Diabetic Living, Diabetes Forecast. There's a magazine called Shape. Another magazine, WebMD. There's Guidepost magazines for people who like to read inspirational stories. Reader's Digest is also one of the magazines that's included, as well as Jet. So there is a magazine in there for every lifestyle. Even, as far as people are into entertainment, like Mr. Wilson, there's the Rolling Stones magazine. People who like to read and write, like as myself. There's one called Poets and Writers. So, as I mentioned, there's something for everyone.
Yeah, and I was introduced to the Glamour magazine while I was visiting the School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. One of the parents came to me with their young daughter and wanted to know what was available for her. And when I started reading that magazine, it was an eye-opener. The Glamour magazine, I tell you fellas, if you want to learn more, there's something to learn about. Women, young women, it really did blow my mind. So just a plethora of information and education, because as blind and visually impaired citizens and those that are print challenged, this is a great tool, one of the greatest tools to access information where you can listen to things independently. Mm-hmm. And say, like, if there's an article in the newspaper or in a magazine that you don't like, you can sort of turn the page. You just by swiping on the phone or pressing 3 on your landline phone, or just move forward. You don't have to listen to an article. You have choice as to what you listen to. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, free.
Free. And Liam, one of the key words that you just mentioned was independently. You know, independently, we can access that information, and it really, really makes a difference.
Now, Mr. Anthony T.J. Wilson.
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, when you first heard of this service, where were you at?
I was a student at the Bosman Rehabilitation Center.
Okay, and so what interested you in this particular service once you heard about it and you became a subscriber?
Well, once I heard about it,
The service itself?
The service, yeah, it interested me because I could go on my own to read what I was interested in.
Again, keyword independently.
Yes.
And one of the things that I noticed with you, Anthony, was when we were asking people, you know, when we were describing the service to people, you were actually one of the first ones who said, you know what, I want to sign up for that service.
Yeah, I thought, even though I didn't know fully what it would offer to me, it was very interesting. So I thought I would look into it.
All right.
Because it has its benefits, and you as an entertainer, and I tell you, your life story is one that we really want to dive into here and learn more about your life story. And we know that you becoming a new subscriber to the service, that you'll find the entertainment section and the Rolling Stones magazine, and then as you travel, as you begin to put your life back together and travel with entertainment, there's cities that you can go to prior to going there and read about their entertainment section. One of the great things I like about it, the service as well, say like if there's an article in there about anything or about yourself, Anthony, or about Florence, or anything that you want to save, you can save that article to your computer. You can take it from put it into a text form by going straight to your inbox. I find that to be very fascinating, particularly for students.
Yes, it is.
And then for seniors, one of the most read sections of the newspaper is the obituaries.
Yes.
And most of the seniors that I speak with, they just want to make sure that they're not in there. So it makes it very good reading, and it has been very helpful to me. I am from Muncie, Indiana, and one night about 2 o'clock, was reading, or that's early morning, I was reading the Muncie obituaries, and there I found one of my Sunday school teachers from way back had passed, and no one had called me, but I was able to independently read about that and ended up going to her homegoing services. That meant a lot to me.
Yes, that's special.
And as I speak and talk with the many subscribers of the service, everyone has a story to share, some interests from business with the Indiana Business Journal,
Yes.
to the Indianapolis Monthly.
Magazine.
That is great. I love that Indianapolis Monthly.
So do I.
And last week we had the Indianapolis Recorder here, the civil rights individuals that were here. So many articles, so much publication that's written out there that is informative to our daily lives, because I truly believe that information is still essential in our lives.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
And
it
that
is.
blind lives matter too. So therefore, you know, the information that's out there with our legislators, we love to work, we love to seek employment, we love to communicate with our peers and our families. I love following sports as well.
Yes.
And with the NFB Newsline service, you can create your,
Favorites.
say that again?
Your favorites.
Your favorites. You can create your favorites, your favorite newspapers or your favorite sections. A lot of people like reading the Wall Street Journals. A lot of people like reading the Tribunes and the Times. You have free access to all of that.
You certainly
And
do.
one of our subscribers, he indicated that he is so excited about service. He reads it every day, and that it's a world magazine. I mean, it's just a world. How did he put that? It's a world publication right there at his fingertips.
His fingertips.
So we'll be right back here on the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana Monthly Report. So stay tuned, and we'll see you shortly.
I am a blind vendor, and one of the things that I truly miss is reading Vending Times magazine.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
It is a fantastic service.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
Wow, I scored a touchdown when I found sports on NFB Newsline.
I enjoy reading TV guide listings on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind. We read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
We want to welcome you back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana Monthly Report. And I'm your host, Lee Martin, and with co-host Florence Myers-McSwine. And today we're joined by two special people in our community. So Florence, would you introduce our guest again?
I certainly will. I have here right here to my right, Miss Mary Black, along with her son, Mr. Anthony Wilson, Jr., and we call him TJ. So welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
Once again, TJ, we just want to, in this particular segment, talk about your transformation and the onset of your condition.
Yes.
As a young man being raised. And Mom, be sure to interject anytime you feel like it.
Certainly will.
But we just want to know, you were diagnosed as being diabetic?
Yes. When I was 12 or 13 years old, I got insulin-dependent type 1 diabetes. And
that was discovered after we noticed TJ's bathroom floor being pretty sticky, where he'd had, some drops of urine as an adolescent, but then also with him drinking gallons of liquids in the evening. We noticed overnight that he had drank a gallon of milk and juice and water just overnight. And myself, being a nurse, I knew instantly that something was going on. So we got him into his pediatrician like within the next day, and he was diagnosed right there in the office and actually given his first insulin injection right there in the office with his pediatrician. That was really devastating for us because TJ was pretty active in music at school, and especially when he was in high school. He was actually Musician of the Year his junior and senior year in high school. But he traveled with the school band. They would go out of town, and he also played at our church as well.
So, TJ.
yes, sir.
Now, tell me, at the age of 13,
Yes.
so when did you I mean, were you getting away with drinking a lot of fluids prior to your mother noticing all of this? Or
Yes, I was drinking about a gallon of water each night. And I was drinking after every class. When I go to school, I fall asleep on the bus in the morning, and I wake up when we get to school. I go in, I get something to drink. I go to my first class, fall asleep, get something to drink after that, go to the next class, fall asleep. You know, and it's happening a whole lot. I didn't recognize it as being anything wrong, but when my parents started to discuss it with me, they were pretty much indicating that it was probably diabetes.
Okay, so Mary, so you mentioned that you're a nurse, but prior to TJ being diagnosed as being diabetic, were there any diabetics in your family?
No, not at the time. We had no type 1 diabetes in our family at all, which is actually when insulin was needed. But no, the people in our family who have been diagnosed, including myself now, they've all been later onset, which is most familiar, type 2, which is what most of us have these days. And there's a high prevalence of type 2 diabetes, especially in the African American community. For young people, it is the juvenile onset, which a lot of times is sometimes the worst one if it's not caught early enough. So it's really important that we take notice of these things with our children. Sometimes we can, tell them they're lazy for falling asleep all the time or not getting enough sleep, or if they're drinking too much, just assuming they're just thirsty. But we really need to take note of that. It's really important for the health of our children.
so taking note is one of the recommendations that you have come to us with as far as being a nurse and a mom. And TJ.
Yes.
I mean, did this bother you, or you was just going along with the program, or?
Well, in the beginning, actually, I thought it was be okay. I thought it was gonna be fine, easy. I take shots every day, but it wasn't that easy. It really took its toll on me. My friends didn't have to take shots. They didn't have to watch what they ate. And I wanted to be a normal kid, and I wasn't able to be.
I know he would complain about that when they would take trips with the school band. I'd have to pack his insulin, and he'd have to stop in the middle of their activities to go to wherever the nurse's station was, and so that they could administer his insulin. And he really had a challenge with that for a long time. And actually, I don't think it was until after college that he adapted somewhat and had to realize that he had to change. Because once he went away to school, he did pretty well the first couple of years, I think. But, when mom's not around or someone's not around to say, take your medication or eat this, don't eat that, we do our own thing. And he tried to pledge the fraternity, and that's when he really got sick and had to come home.
Okay, so TJ, then your mom used the word adapted.
Yes.
When do you feel that you adapted to being a diabetic and to taking insulin? And at what point do you feel that you adapted to being a diabetic?
Well, really, it was after I came home from school, my first attempt at school, which was in Kentucky. I lived there, and I didn't take my medicine, I have to admit. A lot of times I didn't take my medicine. So when I came home, I realized that I really needed to take my medicine and to get on task with trying to keep my diabetes under control.
So in school, you went to what, University of Kentucky, or what?
I went to Kentucky State University.
Kentucky State University.
Yes.
Okay, and you know, you're trying to live a normal life.
I was in band and everything.
Chasing the girls and
everything.
Having a good time. Pledging. What did you? What fraternity did you were going to pledge?
Finish it out.
I couldn't finish it out. It was. It was Kappa Phi.
Oh, Kappas. Okay. All right. So. You know, so you just were living a normal life, and things began to really change on you.
Yes.
And I know Mom was truly concerned.
Truly.
So
yes.
We're going to, pause out of this segment, and we're going to come back with you guys on our next show, so we can talk a little bit more about your experiences as being a diabetic, and a lot of the things that you wanted to do, particularly with your music and being an entertainer. And you're not going to want to miss Mr. TJ and his sax. So join us next week, and we'll be right back to wrap our show up for this segment. So stay tuned.
I'm Danny Wayne Beamer, Program Manager of the Elder Blind Program at the Will Center in Terre Haute, Indiana. I introduce the NFB Newsline to seniors in 13 southwestern counties in Indiana. I also utilize the NFB Newsline for my radio station public affairs shows. The NFB Newsline. Experience it today.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
Welcome back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana Monthly Report. We're concluding our show today with great guests, and we want to thank you both for coming on today, and we'll be looking for your segment next week. There's so much more information to share. So Florence, take us out.
Well, with love, hope, and determination, we transform dreams into reality. See you next week.
We'll see you next week. Join us and join our guests. You don't want to miss that segment.
The National Federation of the Blind Indiana Monthly Report. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 317-205-9226. That's 317-205-9226. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.